The elevator rumbled and shook as it descended. I could hear the massive gears grinding into place as they lowered the cage-like box deeper into the earth. I felt my heart racing in my chest as the humming of the generators grew more and more distant, and the light from above filtered away into darkness. The descent was much faster than I'd anticipated it to be. My fingers gripped the bars in front of me, watching the walls of the dirt tunnel speed by. Small chunks of soil and debris clattered dully to the steel floor of the elevator, bouncing against my boots. I couldn't see very much, or for very long. The overbright lights had been installed every 100 meters, leaving me listening to the sounds of the descent in complete blackness for large chunks of time. Lower and lower I went, the meters flying by, large chunks at a time. Depth status, 250 meters, chimed an automated voice. My breath began to steam over my glass visor, and a notification appeared in my periphery. Warning, rapid decreased temperature detected. Approximate external temperature, -5 degrees Celsius. That couldn't be right. It should be getting warmer, not colder. There was no way the temperature could be sub-zero this far down. I tried to remember if the director had mentioned anything about temperature fluctuations during the briefing, but I was blanking. All I could recall was what I was supposed to do once the elevator stopped. Depth status, 500 meters. Another notification appeared shortly after the depth message. Approximate external temperature, -18 degrees Celsius. Unsure of how to proceed, I pressed the largest circular button on the inside of my wrist, causing a command prompt to appear at the center of my visor display. Please state your command. The toneless female voice momentarily replaced all sounds in the elevator. There was a bright flash as the elevator quickly flew past another light. Contact the surface, I said aloud, my voice muted and dull within my helmet. Contacting surface, the voice responded, and I was left listening to a series of rhythmic beeps. This is Commander Jones. What's your status? I swallowed before responding, my throat suddenly dry. This is Cartographer 4. Status clear. I'm calling to report an anomaly. Granted, the commander told me. I could hear him exhaling loudly into his mic. My life support system has detected a drop in temperature from 30 degrees Celsius to now -18 degrees. How should I mean, what do I, is this normal, or? My tongue tripped over my words as I struggled to figure out how to put my statement together. My foggy breath now completely obscured my view. Relax, the commander instructed, his voice even and calm. The director did mention that there could be any number of fluctuations the further down you get, including temperature. Your stasis suit will keep you safe until you've completed the mission. Hang in there. I exhaled through my nose, my fingers loosening and then tightening once again around the bars in front of me. Roger that. There was an audible click, followed by a 3-tone chime, indicating that the call had been ended. I felt relieved knowing I could just radio the surface if something came up. Another bright spot zoomed past, the elevator continuing its journey down. I felt the weight of my supply pack pressing down on my shoulders. I became very aware of how sticky the inside of my gloves felt against the palms of my hands. Depth status, 1,000 meters. Approximate external temperature, -30 degrees Celsius. Unease grew within me, tangling into a knot deep in my gut. I could do nothing more than readjust my fingers around the metal bars, watching the light slip by. Time seemed to slow down and speed up in bursts. I didn't know how quickly or slowly I was moving. At times it felt as if the elevator had shifted directions and was pulling me up instead of down. I became more and more disoriented, though I found comfort in the constant periodic depth updates. Depth status, 1,250 meters. Depth status, 1,500 meters. Depth status, 1,750 meters. I knew the ride down wouldn't last much longer, and so I braced myself. I released the bars, stepping backwards until my pack made contact with the back of the elevator, the plastic casing clinking against the steel bars. I bounced from foot to foot, preparing myself for my mission, watching as the lights fell away. Depth status, 2,000 meters. Estimated arrival time, 10 seconds. My body became hyper-aware of the suit that was encasing it. Every breath in burned within my chest, my fingertips tingling in anticipation. Somewhere within me, gnawing at my courage, was fear. It kept me in check, reminding me that I was the fourth person attempting this mission. It forced me to stay alert and gave me the extra kick of adrenaline that I needed to go forth with my task and be the first one to actually complete it. The elevator made a violent bang as it collided with the surface. The metal box rocked and heaved as it adjusted itself to the docking platform, throwing me from the rear to the side. I steadied myself against the bars, regaining my footing. "You have reached your desired location. Mission protocol in effect," explained the automated status system. My boots crunched once they made contact with the ground. I shut and locked the door behind me before I looked down to find the surface covered in what appeared to be snow. I set the mapping software into tracing mode, which would allow it to track my movements to map out an area. I looked up and around, turning in place as I tried to fathom what I was seeing. I was in a massive cavern, the walls matte and gray like the skin on a rhino. There was a soft, white light coming from somewhere high above me. It lit the room up the way the moon would in a forest clearing. There were no man-made lighting fixtures that I could see. They wouldn't have been necessary anyway with how bright it already was. The ceiling was too far up for me to get a good look at it, but what looked like snow seemed to be falling from some source at the top, completely obscured by shadows. Across the room was a pair of monolithic stone doors. They were carved out of a glossy ivory material that glistened as if wet in the pale light from above. Intricate swirling patterns covered the door, along with strange runes made of lines and dots, their facets and curves bouncing brightness and shadows along the length of the doors. To the sides of the doors were rusted metal crates labeled barricade material. Pillars of stone and lumps of darker rocks were piled on top of each other, each crate overflowing with debris. To the left of the doors, a bit farther behind the crates, was a large blue tarp covering an expansive bumpy mass on the ground. Patches of snow painted portions of the tarp white, while small rivulets slid to the ground where the buildup grew too heavy. I approached it tentatively, unsure of what to expect. I grabbed a corner of the tarp and lifted it, crouching down to get a better look with the light from my headlamp. Bones. There were hundreds of what looked like human skeletal remains, laying side by side, layered on top of each other with only a thin, knit mesh between each row of bodies. I dropped the tarp and backed away, pressing the button on my wrist as I faced the doors. They were massive, towering so high that the cavernous ceiling cloaked the upper ends in darkness. I wondered how something like this could have been constructed so far underground. I wondered what purpose it served. "Please state your command," the electronic voice interrupted my thoughts. I felt fear dancing through my skin. "External status report. Scanning within a 100-kilometer radius." There was a short pause before the machine spoke again. "External status report is as follows. Depth status, 2,000 meters below surface. Temperature, -32 degrees Celsius. Precipitation, 90% chance of light snow. Flora, undetected. Fauna, unknown." My brows creased in confusion. "Elaborate on fauna." "Fauna of an unknown species and/or origin has been detected." The silence that followed was too loud. "Approximate distance to fauna, My voice was only slightly louder than a whisper. Fauna detected at a distance of approximately 15 kilometers northwest. I looked at the doors in front of me, glancing at the compass that was always present in the upper right corner of my visor. North was directly in front of me, and west was to my left. Whatever it was beyond the door. I pressed the button twice to reset the command prompt. "Please state your command." "Contact the surface," I responded, running my gloved hands over the designs covering the right door, looking for a way to get them open. Contacting the surface, I waited anxiously for a response, chewing on my lower lip as I turned my back to the door. "This is Commander Jones. What's your status?" I exhaled in relief that he answered. "This is Cartographer 4. Status clear. I've arrived at the destination." I paused, glancing at the snow-covered tarp. "I've gotta ask, what happened down here?" The commander took a moment to answer. "We don't really know. When we sent the first clearance team down there, they took some photos and... I'll send one to your visor display now." I heard him clacking away at a keyboard, and then an image appeared in the center of my visor. The doors were there, but they were mostly obscured by a large mound of boulders and slabs of stone. The skeletons were lying all over the mound in various positions, like they were applying their weight against the doors and had died doing so. It appears that the humans we found down there barricaded themselves in the chamber. "You're now in order to keep those doors closed," the commander explained, though why they did so is beyond us. "What do you see down there, C4? The photo disappeared, and I described the snowy cavern, slowly turning back to the doors. My external status report also detected fauna down here. The origin is unknown, but it's quite a ways away. It's about 15k northwest, on the other side of the door," I told him, finding myself to be oddly calm. There was a lengthy pause from the commander's end. I waited for him to speak, feeling worry crawling up my chest, constricting my throat. Before I could say something to break the silence, he spoke. "C4, do you wish to proceed?"